Do something with it.
It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me always. Money coming in all day. Money coming in all paid. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just.
What if there were no borders, no passports, no visas, you travel and live wherever you like, but there is one catch. Your energy grants you access and the only restriction is your frequency. To access higher frequency zones, your frequency must meet a certain level. So if your frequency is at a 7, you can access 7 zones and below. You decide to visit a 7. If for some reason your frequency starts to dip, you're sent to a frequency rehabilitation or frequency improvement area. Sounds dark, but it's full of sounds, activities, and food that'll help you raise your frequency back to the acceptable level. But even in rehab, if it dips too low, let's say 2 points below the required level, you're temporarily exiled. So you travel. Maybe you decide to indulge in the lower frequencies for a bit. Maybe you spent so much time in 7, you forgot what hot Cheetos taste like. Hot Cheetos vibrate at a 4, so they don't exist in 7. So you head to a 4 to have a taste. And remember, you're a 7. Well, technically a 5 since you got exiled, but since you're a 5, you don't have to worry about lowering your frequency to access 4, because you can access anything at a 5 or below. And once you get into 4, your frequency kind of starts to vibrate closer to 4. The lower levels are a lot more dense, so it's easier for them to pull you towards them. So now you're a 4.5 enjoying your hot Cheetos. And if you stay long enough, you'll become a 4. Because the food you're eating, the people around you, the media, everything else is a 4. You become a product of your environment. But even 4s have their limits. And the same rules apply. So if you dip below, rehab or exile. But what if you start to raise your frequency? Maybe you get tired of Cheetos, you're craving something fresh and organic. Tired of the dull conversations, and you're starting to realize these 4s sure do complain a lot. Unlike lowering your frequency, if you raise it, no one's gonna kick you out. Because remember, your frequency grants you access. That's the rule, and you're a 4. But all those thoughts about apples and organic vegetables and uplifting conversations, they're starting to affect your frequency. Now you're a 4.5. Then a solid 5. So you start to isolate yourself from the other 4s. You don't fit in and you really don't have anything to talk about anymore. So you spend even more time alone. You're meditating, going inward, and now you're a 6. You're not resonating with anyone unless you come down, and you don't want to come down. You like how a 6 feels. The gap has become so wide and glaring you have to get out of there. So you leave, and the choice is yours. Where do you go next? The zones may seem like an ideal system, but they're not immune to manipulation. There's a group of people who've stayed in the lower zones for a really long time, and they're starting to resent the people in the higher zones. They don't realize they're in a prison of their own making, and they can leave anytime they like. All they have to do is raise their frequency. But instead of freeing themselves, they'd prefer to trap everyone else. Misery loves company. Plus, if they can get the higher zones down to a 4 or below, then they'll be the highest frequency, and they'll use that power to control all the others. But how can they affect the higher zones if they can't access them? They'd have to raise their frequency to enter, but if they did that, they'd no longer have the desire to control and manipulate. So they decide to create an illusion. In between the zones are transitional fields that serve as bridges from one zone to the next. These fields contain projections that serve as advertisements for each zone. Kinda like a billboard. This one is for Sustainability Sundays in Zone 6. So the 4s decide, oh, we don't need projections, we need propaganda. People usually came to 4 for hot Cheetos, fast food, reality TV. But after a while, they usually get sick of it and leave. So the 4s put up projections promoting luxury and indulgence, mega mansions, glamorous galas, celebrity meet and greets. The bigger the entertainment spectacle, the better. And they got some visitors, but others on the outside weren't fooled. They saw past the illusion. So on to plan B. Keep them trapped. The 4s realized it was a little late to reach the people who were already living, because they already knew the truth about frequency. And although they couldn't change the rules, they could lie about them. People lied in 4 all the time, so they got rid of anything that taught about raising your frequency. They removed it from schools and added low frequencies wherever they could. The music, the food, the media, some of the elders remembered the truth, but eventually they died or left for higher zones. And this worked for a while. After many generations, the people of 4 were trapped. They were told nothing existed outside of 4. Meanwhile, the 5s are catching wind of this. then the 6s, the 7s, and the 8s. And they're like, the 4s might need a little help. So they go to the 11s, who are really benevolent, wise, and loving. The 11s are like, we'd love to help, but we can't just intervene and snatch up their frequency. Those are the rules. It has to be their choice to change their own frequency. And the 7s are like, yeah, but how can they choose when they don't even know they have a choice? No one has explained the rules to them. They've been lied to their entire lives. So the 11s agree to help. But since they can't intervene directly, they decide to send the 4s clues in the form of synchronicities and subtle inspirations. The 11s really love music. They seed the 4 zones with high-frequency objects, like crystals and sacred texts. They visit the people of 4 in their dreams to remind them of their true nature, and to let them experience a glimpse of their power. And slowly, the people of 4 began to wake up.
So we talk about expanding our consciousness and ascending, but we never talk about what comes along with that. Let's talk about the fact that when you expand your consciousness or you ascend, you cannot go backward. I talked about this a little yesterday when I said you can't really relate to anybody anymore. All the trivial bullshit going on in the world is kind of like beneath you. Not only that, I mentioned how you start to lose friends, you stop connected with family members. Nothing really keeps my interest anymore. I'm gonna be honest, some days it's to the point where it's like, what am I here for? I feel like everything that I needed to do, I've done. But again, I'm also in the weird space of being like, that's selfish, because I also have people here that love and care for me. Like, just imagine having your eyes wide open for more than 20 years while the world is asleep. Just imagine being called crazy most of your life, just for everything you said to transpire and unfold right now in front of your eyes. Yeah, expanding your consciousness can be an amazing journey into self-discovery and transformation, but it also gets extremely lonely. And for me, honestly, I love being alone. It's more peaceful. But for other people, they're struggling right now. You start seeing the world for what it truly is. You start feeling real disconnected. Kind of like you've been in a dream and then you waking up and you realize the illusions and the bullshit around you. What keeps me going is just knowing the fact that life is beautiful. The journey is beautiful. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Because we live in the world, which is a whirl or a spiral, just know that we always either spiraling up or spiraling down. This is where the importance of balance comes in. So to maintain your peace and sanity, it's best that you stay around people who resonate with your soul. Be around those that you can be yourself around, because it's nothing worse than feeling like you have to be somebody that you're not just to appease someone else. Just always keep in mind that you create your own reality. So whatever it is that you want to do, get out there and do it. We're not of this world, we just in it. I used to be one of those people that was afraid of death. Like, I couldn't even talk about it. I wouldn't even want to talk about hearses, tombstone, like nothing pertaining to death. As I ascend more and more, I think I'm embracing it a little too much. Like I said, it can get a little scary. Energies on the planet is rising, which means that they're going to do any and everything to try to lower our vibration. Regardless of all the bullshit going on around us, let's just make the best of this journey. Peace, love, and light, and gratitude for watching.
I'm going to tell you in 3 minutes why your prayers and manifestations work, but I will be talking fast, so just rewatch the video. We have a physical, chemical body, but we also have a light, non-physical body. Our physical, chemical body is powered by the bottom 3 energy portals, or the bottom 3 chakras, and also your conscious mind, whereas our light body is powered by our top 3 chakras and our subconscious will. So we have 2 bodies and 2 minds that work separately. Now, most of us never get past our bottom 3 chakras, which are money, sex, and power. That's what our whole society is based off of. That's what keeps us rooted in these bottom 3 chakras. Very, very ego-based, very physical, very logical. However, it's so important for you to develop and balance your chakras and get past your heart space, which is love, compassion, and forgiveness. When you can get past love, compassion, and forgiveness, you get into your top 3 chakras, which are attracting, whereas your bottom 3 chakras are repelling. Now, the reason why the top 3 chakras attract is because the top 3 chakras are associated with your astral body. Your astral body is made up of etheric matter and subtle energy, but the subtle energy has a cosmic essence to it, which makes you a magnet. So I don't know if y'all watch my podcast or not, but the first episode I talked about us being very similar to the Tasmanian devil. When he speeds up, he turns into pure energy, or like this tornado, and he's able to move through space and time very quickly. However, when he slows down, he materializes and he's limited by his physicality. We are energetically designed that exact same way. So when we slow down to materialize and we're limited by our body, that's our bottom 3 chakras. But when we speed up, we enter into those top 3 chakras and we're able to move through space and time and magnetize stuff towards us quicker. Because in those top 3 chakras, we are speeding up to pure energy. Now, I don't know if y'all remember this cartoon called Static Shock. It was really big back in the 90s, but this is the only black superhero we had back then. And what was his power? Conducting electricity. Now, I posted a video about this on my page, but melanin or neuromelanin actually conducts electricity. That's why we always coming up missing. I also talked about sleep paralysis and how it's basically a product of neurosis, and neurosis is your body's inability to obtain energy. So how do you gain access to your astral body? You have to become more light. You have to become more pure energy, because those are associated with your astral chakras. How do you do that? How do you become more electrical? You need an alkaline diet. So make sure that you get in fruits and veggies from the earth, because the earth conducts electricity. That is why all of our shoes have rubber bottoms, because rubber does not conduct electricity, so it disconnects us from the earth. Put your feet in the ground. Go out. Look at the sun. Sun gaze at the end of the day or at the very beginning of the day. Sun bathe, because the sun activates our DNA. It's pure light energy. You have to do shadow work and get out of survival mode so that the anxiety hormones pumping through your body can stop suppressing your melatonin and affecting your circadian rhythm so that you can get good sleep. Learn your human design, learn your energy type so you can figure out how to recharge yourself. Happy healing, people.
Peace to my soul family, peace to my soul tribe. Today we're going to talk about how to expand your consciousness, or how does one get to my level of thought process. Come on, check it out. So what y'all have to understand and realize that each and every one of us are different, but we are all one and the same. Some of us have different characteristic traits, the way we breathe, the way we walk, the way we think. Every one of us is different in some way, shape, or form, but we still all are one. So when you're talking about expanding your consciousness to a level like mine, this is what me and the deity and my spirit team like to call the mind fuck. Because in order you to get to this level of thought process is to not get to this level of thought process. For example, I was right in your shoes. I'll be watching people lectures and documentaries and shows and things like that. And then I would always stop to ask myself like, dang man, when I'm gonna be able to kick knowledge like that? When I'm gonna be able to just know things? When I'm gonna be able to guide and help give insight to people? When I began to ask myself those questions, I was speaking those spells upon myself. I was speaking the non-achievement of me having an expanded consciousness over myself. I was placing myself in a chaser mentality by using the word when. When am I? When am I? When am I gonna do this? When am I gonna do that? And we're electromagnetic beings. We should not be chasing anything. Everything should be magnetizing towards us because we are one with all. Soon as I jump dimensions, soon as I shift my forms of consciousness, then I was actually able to tap in, because now I wasn't in a state of worry anymore. I wasn't in a state of lack of what I wasn't able to do yet. I found that access code to self, how to tap into self, my own way, through others. So really, in order for you to expand your consciousness, is to not compare yourself to others. Because your expanded consciousness may be different from others. The way you think may not be the same way that I think. I'm just here, part of my purpose is just to help initiate that spark inside of you. That creative, imaginative spark inside of you. To where you take the information that you're receiving from anywhere, alchemize it, and then expound on it. Because you can break down and analyze and see different perspectives and things just the same way I can. Just the same way everybody can. But you have to tap into your way. You have to tap into your own unique, innate ability to do these things. There's somebody probably out here in the world right now can tell you everything about astrology with using rocks. Think about it. There's a lot of people who can teach you about astrology, but that specific person found their own way on how to teach you or will help you to remember astrology. So to expand your consciousness, there's a plethora of different things that you can do in the physical realm, like taking Harataki, Ginkgo biloba, Echinacea, Kava Kava, Ashwagandha, eating hella berries. I used to stay off berry smoothies. Fasting is one of the fastest ways to expand your consciousness. Psilocybin and a plethora of other things. But the main factor should be you knowing how to deal with self, how to analyze self, how to be creative with self, how to be imaginative with self, how to connect dots with self in your own thinking process. Because that is unique to your algorithm, to your programming, to your coding, to your avatar. Tap into yourself.
Or have a sense of, they'll say, I don't come from here. When I was a child, I was fascinated with staring out at the night sky. I was fascinated with the movement of the planets. I knew I came from somewhere out there. Other clients come for regression, and they learn through the regression.
Does the soul separate from the body?
Yes.
And then where does it go? What does it do?
So when we're born, we have a fractal, a portion, a slice of the pie, if you will, of our soul. We bring a percentage of our soul energy into our body at birth. That's what causes us to live and breathe. The remainder is our higher self. The remainder is our soul in the higher realm called the higher self. When we die, that slice of our soul automatically exits the body. It's on autopilot, you might say. Many of us who've been around a loved one who's passing or has passed will feel that shift. That slice of soul returns to the higher self.
Who decides what the soul does, how it reincarnates, how it incarnates?
We always have spiritual guides. We are never without a guiding force from the higher realm.
Tell us about these guides, Linda.
So an earth-based soul, an interplanetary soul, an angelic soul always has a lead or a senior guide. That guide is a soul in the higher realm.
Is this like a guardian angel?
Yes, they assist us. Our guide never leaves us. Our guide is benevolent, not judgmental. It's not their job to be judgmental. It's their job to be supportive and guide us toward more effective behavior.
Talking one time, and they had this concept about where all people were from, and we realized that we couldn't be from where they say we're from because we're from everywhere. That would say that that's our beginning when we have no beginning.
Right.
We've always been. So why do we have to have a start point and an end point? Why do we always have to say that this culture was the best culture? Because we keep talking about, superiority and who was supreme and who thinks they're supreme. And then we start acting like we're supreme, you see, and all of a sudden now it becomes diluted. It becomes a situation where we're attempting to feel better about ourselves. Because we've been through so much oppression, but we have to remember, after being oppressed for a certain amount of time, you can easily become the oppressor.
Y'all know how the sermon be getting so good in church, you just gotta say, like, preach, preacher. I almost did that to Dr. B, because when I tell y'all he feeds my soul. You've never heard one of Dr. B. Serious's lectures? You missing out. Definitely go check him out. Exactly what he said is what I spoke about in one of my previous videos. This is how I knew I ascended. When I scroll this app and I see my people, my copper color beings that look like me, I could see and feel their anger and their pain. And I could just see exactly where I was not too long ago. Something about our oppression that makes us feel like we have to prove who we are continuously. We have to prove that we've been here first. We have to prove that we're superior. We have to prove our genetics are different. It's so much shit that we feel like we have to prove. And if you don't take a step back and realize that you are exerting your power outward when you feel like you have to prove yourself to anyone for anything. Like I always tell y'all, I'm not judging, because that was me literally not too long ago. Honestly, because we have that dragon energy as copper color beings, we have that fire tongue, that fire energy, I might snap back. If I see some racist shit that's loud and wrong, I may step in and clap back and provide truthful love. It is not from a place of anger. I have ascended past that shit. He who angers you controls you. Things change inside you, things change around you. That way of thinking was keeping me angry. That is a low vibration. Embracing your authentic self and striving for emotional maturity is a journey within itself. Because not only does it transform your life, it can transform the lives of the people around you. I'm a living witness to this. If you ever seen one of my videos where I've done like a clap back, then you will see my tone stays the same. I'm calm, I give truthful love, and I stand my ground. I don't get disrespectful. I don't go below the belt. I don't prove myself. I just state the facts. State them from my perspective, because that's all that I can do. We live in our own universe. Why y'all think my page called Yaya's World? I'm living in my own world. But I do realize that my presence, my knowledge, my intellect, my confidence may trigger those who are not at that same level yet. I realize that some people only want to hear my voice when it's projecting their thoughts. That's a them problem, not mine. I'm on here to carry out my soul's mission, which is to enlighten and inform and raise the vibration on the planet. And years ago, my higher self gave me the clarity that the way that I was going to do that was through my throat chakra, which for so long was blocked. Another way that I knew that I ascended was when I released any type of malice that I had for anyone or anything. So this could mean past relationships, parents, past friendships, co-workers, whoever. I released every bit of malice that I had. And in the end, that same malice that you held in your heart for so long, it does nothing for the people that you're holding those feelings for. But you know who it does something to? You. internally as well as externally. These negative emotions can damage, literally, your energetic auric field. Protect your energy by surrounding yourself with supportive and loving and caring, compassionate people, whether they look like you or not. Part of the healing journey is setting boundaries. So it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to stand your ground. It's okay to have a little fire energy. But most importantly, when you know who you are, when you know where you come from, you do not have to prove that to anyone. But it isn't until you gain knowledge of self that you can see the vision clearly. I love all of y'all. Peace, love, and light, and gratitude for watching.
So tell me, out of everything you've ever done, what's the craziest experience you've ever had?
That's easy. Earth.
Earth? You went to Earth?
I did.
No way. You were a human?
I was.
Wow. Are the stories about Earth true? Were they really trapped on Earth?
Some were. I know because I was one of the volunteers.
Wait a second. You volunteered to go to Earth?
I did. I had to. I had family trapped on Earth.
But how could you get trapped on Earth?
You had to be there to understand. On Earth, you wouldn't remember anything.
What do you mean you wouldn't remember anything?
I mean, you would have no memory of anything. You wouldn't even remember existing before Earth.
What? How is that possible?
It was designed that way. It was brilliant. To dive as deeply as possible into such ignorance, such darkness, and still find your way back to remembering who you were, that took true mastery.
Wow. I still can't believe you went to Earth. Tell me more.
Well, Earth had its own set of laws that everyone agreed to experience. Like gravity, what goes up must come down. Like linear time, day is followed by night.
Time? What's time?
You know how when we think of something it manifests instantly? Well, on Earth there was a delay. The delay is what made Earth so difficult.
Interesting. Time. So tell me more.
Before going to Earth, you would choose your family, whether you wanted to be male or female, what race you wanted to be, the location on the planet, things like that.
Oh, so you could choose your own character.
Exactly. You would enter the Earth as a baby and be completely dependent on others to teach you the rules. But since nobody could remember the rules, they made up their own rules, based on fear and giving your power away to others.
That doesn't sound like much fun.
It wasn't for everyone.
What'd you do while portions of you were on Earth?
I watched them. It was pretty funny.
What was so funny?
Here were these magnificent beings, playing the most unique and cutting-edge experience in the universe, and they were clueless. Most of those watching the Earth experiment didn't think we could pull it off.
8 signs you are in the middle of a spiritual awakening. Number 1, feeling lost and uncertain about your life's direction. This is one of the more earlier signs for you to look for, as it signals a change for something new. Number 2, feeling an intense urge for personal growth and development. There may be a deep reason why you question everything about your life right now, and it may be you're in the middle of a spiritual awakening. Number 3, feeling a strong connection to nature and God. This connection with nature and God is a sign that you may be becoming more sensitive about the world around you and more in tune with who you are becoming. Number 4, your suppressed emotions and trauma are starting to come to the surface. As you move through your spiritual awakening, it's not uncommon for your past traumas to be healed. This is God forcing healing because you can't move forward until you close the door on the past. Number 5, you are feeling a burning, a yearning for inner peace and stillness. As you are going through your spiritual awakening, you may want to just be alone. You may just want to turn the music off and turn the TV off or put your cell phone down. This is a sign you are going through a spiritual awakening. Number 6, you experience magical moments, kind of like deja vu. It's when everything starts just to make sense all of a sudden. This is a sign that you are going through or might be going through a spiritual awakening. Number 7, old habits Old practices seem to not really excite you anymore. There's something about growth that makes you look back at your past and accept that you are moved on. Number 8, you can see yourself growing right before your eyes. It's almost like you're having an out-of-body experience, watching yourself handle situations in ways that you recently did not handle. If you think you are going through a spiritual awakening, I want you to put 2 hearts in the comment section and tell me what the most difficult part of going through a spiritual awakening for you is. Also, I want you to consider following me because I give bits and tips on how to navigate through your spiritual awakening, your spirituality, your spiritual gifts, and many other aspects of your life that are crucial for your development personally, spiritually, and also financially. If you didn't know, now you know.
I had someone ask me a really good question about spirituality. They asked how conflicting ideas could both be true at the same time. So what I want to explain to you is that everything that anyone has ever said is the truth because there is nothing but the truth. From a human perspective, we like to see people as right or wrong. We like to see us as all having differing opinions, and that is also true. This is because the human perspective is very, very, very small compared to the grander picture. And the more layers of ego that a person has, then the more layers of filtration this truth has to come through. So what anybody says is never, ever, ever wrong. It's just that their words are being filtered through this lens of reality that they've come to know as themselves. And the more layers you add on to yourself, the more things you believe yourself to be, then the smaller and smaller your lens starts to get, to the point where it's kind of like a magnifying glass. You're only seeing a speck of sand on an entire beach. But someone who has started to peel back the layers of the ego, who start to let go parts of their identity and identify with less and less things, they will begin to see reality through a larger and larger, more all-encompassing lens. This means that they can see even other smaller perspectives from this large perspective, and now they can look at your conflicting view and see how it fits with the bigger picture. So even though to you, when you're at this very small point in reality and you're arguing with someone over a very particular thing, the person operating from the larger lens can see how those two things actually fit together. The best way I can describe this is go look at a tree. A tree has all these branches that stem from the same base, but then they branch off smaller and smaller and smaller. And oftentimes some of those branches even cross each other. But again, all of those branches come from the same tree and they come back to the same tree. But the branches that are closer to the tree are wider. They have a wider lens. They play a bigger role in the actual image of the tree. The closer you get to the base, the closer you get to the truth, the wider your lens. And the more things you're able to let go of and not identify with, the closer you get to true awareness and observation of reality. So once again, you could think that your truth is different than my truth, but from my perspective, the way that I see it, your truth also fits into my truth. Think of it like the shape of a horn or a black hole, like I've drawn in some of my videos, that goes from a small point to a larger point. What's happening, think of it like God's voice comes from the base, the small point, but then as soon as you start to get further and further and further away from so-called God, then you start to get further and further away from the truth. The more that you start to identify with things, with physical things, with saying that I am this or I am that, then you start to add layers and layers and layers to your lens, which once again move you further away from the truth that lies underneath. And I say God speaks from the small end of this black hole or this horn that I'm talking about, and not the larger end, because if you are operating from the perspective of the very small end of the black hole or the point of singularity, as in the present moment in reality, then your perspective is from that little point out to the larger point. So you're looking outwards at everything, versus if you're at the large point, which means you have many things in your lens all the time. Think of like someone who's very busy, who their energy is all over the place. They're looking at a million different things. They're associating themselves with a million different things. Then their perspective ends up actually being the opposite way, and it's very small and limited because they're spreading their energy out among many things, whereas God is simply looking at what's right in front of them, and in looking from that point of view ends up seeing a much larger picture. For example, there may be a poster on the wall that you see the same every single day. You look at it, you pass by it every day on your way to work, and you never think twice about it. But then one day someone stops you by the poster and you end up looking up at it and actually paying more attention to it. And as you do that, it starts to have a different meaning to you. You start to find something in it maybe you didn't see before. And this is what happens with reality. The more that you start to look at things through a lens without your usual filter, then things start to change. The perspective of things is always changing. So when I say that you are raising your level of consciousness, really what you're doing is just peeling back layers of the way that you've always looked at things. You're peeling back layers of this lens that you constantly look through, and you're starting to look at things for once through a different lens. The same thing works with words. So someone could say something to you at one point in your life and it means one thing, but then later on in your life, down the line, it might mean something different to you. You might look back on it. Same thing happens with perspective as we age and we get older. We look back at ourselves in the past and we're like, oh, I would have never done that. I would have never done this way. Or, you know, I see how I should have been kinder to myself then or kinder to that person. That's because your perspective is shifting. Oftentimes we end up building a lot of layers to our ego throughout like our younger years and then into, I would say, like 30s, maybe into 40s a little bit. But then as you start to get older, some people, not everyone, start to lose some of these filters. They start to not care so much about what everyone thinks in the world. They stop identifying with so many things. And that's why people who are elderly tend to have a very different perspective than people who are younger, because they kind of see things from a larger perspective. So long story short, you can have conflicting opinions with someone at one level, but at a higher level, they can be complementary and they can make sense together. Because God, or the universe, higher source, is always speaking through you. Whether you know it or not, your words that you say are the truth, even if they are written in symbolism or written in metaphor in a way that you can't comprehend at your current level. But then once you start to raise your level of consciousness, you'll see the things that you said actually had a different meaning to them, a much different meaning, a much deeper meaning. Everything in our reality is just symbolism and patterns, and once you start to see it, you cannot unsee it.
When you become awakened for real, you go through all the stages of grief. Like, first and foremost, you are gonna deny, because it is quite literally easier to make yourself believe that you are delusional and losing your mind than to believe that everything you've ever believed is a lie. So you just deny it. In denying it, you don't just deny it. You go try to prove to yourself that you are having a mental breakdown. So you go do research to try to disprove the research that made you awaken in the first place. And all that does is take you down a bigger rabbit hole, a deeper rabbit hole that disillusions you even further. And now you're angry because who do I trust? But angry stage doesn't last long, and it doesn't last long for two reasons. The first is that you have this clear understanding that anger is not going to liberate you, and you know this because of the second reason, right? You've come to an awakened stage where you recognize that by existing in this low frequency and this negative energy, I'm just manifesting more low frequency negative energy. I'm just manifesting more anger by being in anger. So you recognize within yourself, like, bro, I have to release this, because regardless of the fact that the veil has been lifted and I understand that we're living in a matrix, it doesn't give me an automatic out of the matrix, right? So then you start bargaining with yourself and you're like, okay, maybe I can accept some of the lies, like at least the ones that make me feel good. But eventually you realize this cannot work. You can't be halfway asleep and halfway awakened. You have to abandon all of the lies and start from the ground up and go within yourself and find out the truth. However, you don't know how you're going to do that because you become terribly depressed. And it's not like a regular depression. Like, it's not the type of depression that like just going outside and getting some sunlight is gonna help, because remember, you're awakened. So you're even looking at the sun like, bitch, can I trust you? But eventually you start to recognize how much power you have. And when you recognize your power, that is what makes you become okay with accepting it. And I'll end with this. Good already won. Remember that. Good already won. The fight is you versus you.
What's going to happen to you when you start meditating? So for context, I've been meditating for about 4 years now. So to start off from the very beginning, when you first start to meditate, you'll probably think that you're doing it wrong, and you'll be really restless. And the reason that you'll think that you're doing it wrong is because you'll have all these different thoughts just running through your mind, you feel me, leading you to all these different places inside of yourself. I'm talking like 30 minutes just pass by and your mind just running. So understand that there's no such thing as meditating wrong. Because understand this, and especially if you're a person who's a beginner, when your mind is just running like that, then you got to understand that throughout your life, in your everyday life, you're getting all different types of stimulus from your environment, from your senses. You feel what I'm saying? That's creating all these different thoughts inside of you. You feel me? Bringing things out from your subconscious. You hearing all the music on the radio. You hearing music when you in the gym. You hearing all these different conversations going on all around you at work and shit, whatever it may be. All of those different things is thoughts swimming inside of your head. And when you go into meditation, when you sit down for meditation, then all of them thoughts from the day, from the week, even from the month, whatever, they all just come to the front. You dig what I'm saying? Especially them thoughts of things that you know you should really be on, things you know you really should be doing, or things that hold a lot of emotional baggage to them. You'll kind of realize how distracted you are in your everyday life, because your mind is constantly running. Your mind constantly has thoughts just going and going. You feel what I'm saying? And it's not until you go into meditation that you're able to really observe all these different thoughts that's running through your mind. And it's like, damn, like, you feel me? You can't even sit down for 5-10 minutes quietly because all these different thoughts that's running through your head. Then you get out of meditation and you start playing some video games, or you start talking to this person, or you start doing this or doing that. Distractions away from all these different things that's going on inside of you. So a good thing to tell yourself when you start to meditate is that you are observing your thoughts. Like when you start to meditate, tell yourself inside of your head, I'm observing my thoughts. I am the observer. And try to observe your thoughts from a outside perspective. You feel what I'm saying? Try to look at your thoughts as if they are not you. Now, this practice right here of observing your thoughts and meditation is what will bring you to a higher level of mental mastery of yourself. And it will bring you a knowledge of self as well. As in, you will start to realize the different habits that you have in terms of your actions, your feelings, and your thoughts as well. As the seed of all action is thought. And then what happens as you start to progress along your journey of meditation is where the real magic starts to happen. But I'm going to talk about that in a part 2. Peace be to the girls on earth.
But I don't believe in religion because I have a lot of evidence to say, I mean, which religion? There's 5,000 of them. Which God? There's Thor, right? And if I was born in a different part of the world, I would believe in Allah. And if I was born in where I'm from in Botswana, it would be a different iteration of the God you probably believe in. And I didn't believe at a very young age that religion and the keys to heaven would be given based on where I was born. That doesn't seem like it makes sense to me. I don't think it's fair that kids that are born on that side of the world are going to burn in hell, and ones that are born in that part are going to be just fine and they're going to have the nice white robes and stuff. I didn't believe that to be true. So as it relates to religion and these like man-made constructs, I don't really care about that. As it relates to a higher being or like spirituality, I'm kind of agnostic.
Y'all know the saying, seek and ye shall find? Well, that's kind of what it's like when you're trying to connect with your higher self. You got to seek you to find you. But I'm going to break it down simply. Connecting with your higher self just means connecting with your truth. Your truth. That's the key word. Because for so long, we've been programmed to believe what everybody else wants us to believe. We've been going along with society's rules. I mean, just think about it. We were taught what's right and wrong. But who's to determine what's right and wrong for real? That's what connecting to your higher self is like. You finding you so that you can guide you and stop letting everybody else guide you. You give yourself the confirmation and stop looking for it in others. In order to do this, you got to cancel out the noise of daily life because everything is so loud and chaotic. You cannot hear yourself. The ultimate way of connecting to yourself is meditation. There's no way around it. Sit with you, sit in the discomfort, deal with it, and then heal. Every single time. You're only stuck in certain positions because you put yourself there and you allowed yourself to stay there. Another way to connect to your higher self is to connecting through nature, because I am everything and everything is me. Nature's going to give you every sign that you're looking for, as long as you're paying attention. So I'm going to give y'all an example of how I connected to my higher self through nature the other day. So remember I said nature will give you the signs that you're looking for as long as you're paying attention. So the other day I'm in the car giving gratitude and thanks, meditating, thinking about my life and where it's going, right? So I was very ecstatic and happy about some of the opportunities that have come my way. In that moment, I was giving thanks. I was talking to my brother as well, because if many of you don't know, my brother passed away, unfortunately, in 2014. So I was telling him, thank you for guiding me. I know that you're with me every step of the way. I'm just talking to him, giving him thanks and gratitude as well. Then I asked my higher self, I asked nature, I asked the universe to give me a sign that my brother was with me. And the way that I did this is I said, if you are with me, which I know you are, please give me confirmation by sending me a dragonfly today. I know I love dragonflies, bees, all that, right? But I kid y'all not. I'm driving down the street with my girls. We listening to I Can Do Magic by Qbada, and it's a specific part of the song that came on. So as I approach the light, the dragonfly is literally just coming towards my car, and it stops right at my window and staring directly at me. Like 30 seconds, literally. That shit had me so hyped, y'all. It wasn't just a coincidence. That didn't just randomly happen. It was the connection to my higher self. It was the connection to my ancestors, my spirit guides, to the spirit realm, to the universe that allowed me to see that symbol and sign for my brother. Like I said, connecting with your higher self is about trusting you. It's about trusting the signs and symbols that you place before yourself, or that the universe or your ancestors are placing before you. A lot of y'all are seeing synchronicities. This is not a coincidence. You are seeing repeating numbers. That means that your ancestors, your spirit guides, or your higher self is trying to get in contact with you. You need to pay attention. Also, if you get a lot of ringing in your ears, that's another sign that your higher self is trying to get in contact with you. We know there's a medical term for it, but we're talking about spiritually. Once you tune the noise out, you will start hearing your inner voice louder and louder. Trust you. You got this. I got faith in you. But you should first ask you if you have faith in yourself. Peace, love, and light, and gratitude for watching.
So I just came to a revelation about the higher self that just blew my mind, and I want to share that with y'all. So you know we have a higher self and a lower self. Our higher self is our spirit. Our lower self is our soul. So our higher self is just a fragment of God consciousness, and God wanted to experience itself across multiple dimensions, so it basically projected a fragment of its consciousness into a multidimensional being. And now that multidimensional being, or our spirit, is projecting fragments of itself into multiple dimensions. So you'll hear people on this app talking about timeline jumping or quantum jumping. This is what they're talking about. The higher self projects us, a version of us, into separate dimensions. And because the higher self was created in God's image, it does not experience separation. So to the higher self, it is God. Because the ego is what creates separation, and it does not have an ego. It only experiences the love frequency, and it exists outside of time and space. So this is the very reason why we're called multidimensional beings, because we are a fragment of that multidimensional being. And this is also why they say the higher self is all-knowing. Now I'm about to explain that in more detail. So like I said, our soul is just a fragment of the higher self being projected into this dimension, because the higher self cannot exist at a lower density. But it's how the higher self experiences our existence that blew my fucking mind. Because you know how they say we live in a holographic dream matrix, right? So our soul is our actual dream body. Because the higher self exists outside of time, our entire lifetime, although it seems like it's 80 something years, to the higher self it happens in a second. So the higher self is all knowing because our entire life has already happened, right? So it's as if the higher self went to sleep and woke up and we were the dream. Because our soul is the higher self's dream body. So when we're dreaming, we're basically projecting a fragment of our consciousness into an alternate reality.
I've actually tested.
If you want to be mentally strong, You have to tell your brain what you want. This is the number one principle I give my patients and I tell myself. You have to tell the front part of your brain that's involved in focus, forethought, judgment, impulse, control. You have to tell it what you want. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of children do you want to raise? And I have an exercise I love called the one-page miracle. On one piece of paper, write it out. What do you want in your relationships? For your work, for your money, for your physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Write it out. Step number one, write it out. And then every day you ask yourself, is my behavior getting me